As you can see from here, that incidence of cardiovascular disease is quite high. To be more precise, both in India and all over the world, the incidence is mortality is 30%. So 30% of deaths are caused by what we are doing to prevent cardiovascular diseases. We are treating diabetes, we are treating dyslipidemias, we are treating hypertension in an attempt to prevent atherosclerosis. Prothrombotic disorders, we are targeting. Behavioral therapies we are giving, just asking our patients to avoid smoking or tobacco consumption in any form. Excess alcohol to be avoided, that we are saying. We are speaking about exercise 30 minutes a day, at least 5 days in a week. Some predisposing factors include demographic disadvantage. You know, Keralites in India, they are more predisposed to develop coronary artery disease in younger age group. They are genetically predisposed for that. We are targeting that as well. But still, what we are doing, as you can see from here, there is a Framingham risk scoring system, you all know. Here, the considerations are given to glycemic status, to hypertension, to lipid profile, to age, to sex, to family history of coronary artery disease in younger age group, and a scoring pattern is done. And ultimately, a score is given to the individual that indicates us in coming 10 years, how much is the possibility for that person to develop coronary artery disease. In spite of doing that, and in spite of following that Framingham scoring system, what we are seeing in our patients, only 38% of those CAD patients are having 2 or more risk factors. And in 19% of patients, they are having no risk factors, still they are having coronary artery disease. And in 43% of patients, only 1 risk factor is there, but still they are having coronary artery disease. So altogether, in 64% of patients, there is either no predisposing factor, risk factor, or there is only a single risk factor. So there must be something we are missing. We are missing something which we are not yet targeting, which might be the responsible factor behind development of atherosclerotic lesions, either in coronary arteries or in renal arteries or in cerebrovascular arteries. So let us think, or let us give some consideration over that factor, which might be that factor which we are missing till now. What we are doing till now, we are giving or prescribing aspirin as an antiplatelet agent. We are prescribing statins for lipid lowering. We are prescribing lifestyle measures. We are asking our patients to lose their body weight. We are asking them to consume excess of alcohol. We are asking them to avoid tobacco consumption. But still a lot of patients are developing coronary artery disease, even in younger age group. So what should be our consideration, or what factors should we consider other than these traditional risk factors which we have known so far? As you can see from here, Framingham estimate of 10-year risk. If you combine C-reactive protein measurements along with that risk factor, the mortality rate or the relative risk of CVD goes even higher. So if a person is having 0 to 1 Framingham estimate of 10-year risk, and his CRP value is more than 3, then he will be having a more probability of developing CAD than a person who is having lesser quantity of CRP in his serum. So, as you can see from here, in a person who is having Framingham risk between 10 to 20 and CRP level more than 3, he is having a much higher probability of developing CAD than a person of similar risk score but having lesser quantity of C-reactive protein in his blood. Similarly, a same thing can be said regarding LDL cholesterol level. Suppose a patient is having between 130 to 160 milligram per deciliter LDL level, and his C-reactive protein is more than 3, then he is more likely to develop CAD than a person who is having CRP less than 3 or less than 1. So, an important aspect we are approaching is, what does CRP means? CRP mean? CRP means chronic inflammation. It's a marker for chronic inflammation. Underlying chronic inflammation is indicated by measurement of serum CRP. So once a person is having more CRP in his serum, he is having chronic inflammatory process going on inside his system. And he is more likely to develop coronary artery disease, in fact, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease in any form, maybe CVA, maybe renal insufficiency, maybe peripheral artery disease, maybe coronary artery disease. So CRP level, increased CRP level, more probability is there. So chronic inflammation must be a factor. Regarding CRP measurement, as you can see from here, from 2003 to 2013, how the concept is evolving. During 2003, what Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the American Heart Association used to tell us, measurement of high sensitivity CRP may help direct further evaluation and therapy in the primary prevention of CVD. The entire adult population should not be screened for HSCRP. In 2010, measure CRP in apparently healthy elderly people to identify cardiovascular risk. In 2013, the role has been even more appreciated, use of HSCRP for stratifying the high-risk patients for atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. So, what we are seeing from here, that endorsing authorities are recognizing high sensitivity CRP as a good marker for calculation of risk for development of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease in future. So HSCRP is nothing but the marker which indicates us that chronic inflammatory processes through the endothelial cells of the vessel. In between, the gap in between the endothelial cells that they penetrate and comes inside the intima. Inside the intima, they gets activated by oxidized LDL that acts as a trigger for inflammation. And this monocyte, when activated, they are called by name CRP, CD40, CD40L, TNF-alpha, interleukin 1, interleukin 6. These are all pro-inflammatory mediators. As well as what it is doing in NF-kappa beta pathway, that does promote activation of VCAM1 and ICAM1, intercellular adhesion molecule 1 and vascular cell adhesion molecule 1. What does it do? They do help in adherence of monocytes with the endothelial cell at the vascular lumen. Yes. NF-kappa beta pathway. There is another pathway which does take place within the dendritic cell. You know, macrophages are derived from monocytes, activated monocytes. Similarly, dendritic cells are also derived from activated monocytes. And within this dendritic cell, one pathway goes on that is called kynurenine pathway. And kynurenine pathway is nothing but this is the representation or rather depiction of the NF-kappa beta pathway. In NF-kappa beta pathway, as you are saying, that it's taking place within the nucleus of macrophages, and NF-kappa beta pathway can be intervened by different molecules, pharmaceutical compounds, like as you can see from here that there is a PPAR gamma receptor. Basically, PPAR gamma receptor is at the nuclear membrane. And once that PPAR gamma is stimulated by any molecule like thiazolidinedione, glitazones, it does prevent the expression of those pro-inflammatory molecules. So if you are using pioglitazone, it's having that anti-inflammatory effect by expressing or rather by stimulating PPAR gamma receptor at nuclear membrane. Antiplatelet agents acts over the platelets. Here, how does it take place? Right? Inflammatory stimuli, maybe cytomegalovirus infection or any other chronic infection, that does cause activation of Yes. Inflammatory stimuli cause activation of I kappa beta. I kappa beta activates NF kappa beta. NF kappa beta translocates inside the nucleus, and inside the nucleus it helps in transcription of pro-inflammatory cytokines like TNF alpha, interleukin 6, interleukin beta, interleukin 1 beta, etc. And also the adhesion molecules in cytoplasm, they get more expressed by NF kappa beta pathway. So for any molecule which could prevent the activation of I kappa beta activates NF kappa beta. NF kappa beta gets translocated within the nucleus. Within the nucleus, they helps in transcription of TNF alpha, IL-6, IL-1 beta, etc. As well as in cytoplasmic level, they do activate the expression of ICAM1 and PCAM1. And by this, they perpetuate or they propagate the process of inflammation. So, curcumin is a molecule which can prevent all these steps. It prevents the activation of I kappa beta. So, once I kappa beta is not activated, NF kappa beta is not activated. Also, it prevents the translocation of activated NF kappa beta within the nucleus. So, if NF kappa beta is not translocated within the nucleus, there will be no expression or rather transcription for TNF alpha, interleukin 6, so there will be no inflammation. At the same time, it prevents release of inflammatory mediators from nucleus as well. Curcumin has an anti-inflammatory role in cardiovascular disease. Decreases C-reactive protein, decreased MI associated with CABG, significantly reduces the serum cholesterol, prevents progression of diabetic nephropathy, decreased fasting blood glucose and HbA1c level as well. Decreases C-reactive protein as a decreased fasting blood glucose, HbA1c level. This is kynurenine pathway. What I have already told you, it goes on inside the dendritic cell. Dendritic cells are also derived from activated monocytes. What does take place here? Tryptophan. It's a pathway of tryptophan metabolism. Tryptophan, once worked upon by indole amine 2,3 deoxygenase, is converted into kynurenine, which then is converted into 3-hydroxyanthranoline, and then it gets converted to 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid. This is the most important molecule in this pathway. This 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid has got an anti-inflammatory property which prevents the activity of NF kappa beta. And once NF kappa beta pathway is inhibited, that pro-inflammatory cytokines are not released within the system, so chronic inflammation will be stopped. So the important important molecule in this pathway is 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid. So if we can produce a medicine which is having an effect similar to 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid, that will be used as an anti-inflammatory medication, because that does inhibit the NF kappa beta pathway and that does inhibit the chronic inflammatory process as well. So 3-HAA, 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid, is an intermediate metabolite of tryptophan when metabolized through kynurenine pathway. In macrophages, 3-hydroxyanthanilic acid can inhibit the activation of nuclear factor kappa beta. So inflammation will be gone. Activity of inducible nitric oxide synthase. You know, nitric oxide once in lower concentration, it's a vasodilator, it's an antioxidant, but once in excess concentration, it does promote inflammation. So it's pro-inflammatory. So by inhibiting the action of nitric oxide synthase, it will reduce the production of nitric oxide as well. Interleukin 2 and interleukin 7 is stimulation is also inhibited by 3-HAA. So 3-HAA is a potentially good anti-inflammatory molecule, no doubt about that. And inflammatory molecules, they are all getting diminished by 3-HAA. It's not progressing, yeah? Why? It's 3-AA, the CD4 cell counts getting reduced at the site of lesion. The aortic root lesion atherosclerosis, that is also getting diminished once you are treating the system with 3-HAA in comparison to PBS, phosphate buffer saline. So in summary, what 3-HAA is an intermediate metabolite of kynurenine pathway, that is tryptophan metabolism. It has the following clinically significant benefits: improves lipid profile. 3-HAA significantly reduces vascular inflammation. These are all potential molecules which target different parts of this pro-inflammatory cycles, which could be used in future as an anti-inflammatory to address the issue of atherosclerotic cardiovascular diseases. Conclusion: despite optimum therapy with current drugs, still 1/3 of low-risk individuals with 0 to 1 Framingham risk factor have been known to develop atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Controlling inflammation will help improve cardiovascular outcomes and may also further help reduce morbidity and mortality in patients with CVD. So the basic take-home message is, what we are doing till now, we are trying to modify the LDL level by prescribing statin. We are trying to reduce the platelet aggregability by prescribing either clopidogrel or aspirin. But in future, what we will do is we will target chronic inflammation, because atherosclerosis is a chronic inflammatory process and many molecules are in the pipeline to be introduced as potential good therapeutic agents to prevent atherosclerosis in near future. Thank you for patient hearing. Thank you all.